Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill. I know that the honourable member who moved the bill has been working very hard on this for a long time and is very committed to the issues of equality for all. I support this bill for many reasons. When I first became a member of Parliament in 1993, as a physician, I saw what discrimination based on sexual orientation cost my patients. I saw the high levels of suicide. I saw the high levels of discrimination. I saw that the law discriminated against access to medical care, to dental benefits, to medical benefits, in every single way. I saw that the rights of persons who were same-sex couples who had lived together for many years, they were unable to do the simple things that a heterosexual couple who had been together for a year could do. In other words, if a partner was dying or ill, they did not have the right, no matter how long they had lived with that partner, to make decisions with regard to care, to make decisions with regard to funeral arrangements in the event that that partner had passed away. And so this for me, as a physician, did not allow me to do my job. It did not allow me to take care of my patients in a manner that should be beyond any kind of discrimination whatsoever, as stated in the Canada Health Act. As a result, we brought forward these issues as a Liberal government, and today we do have equality based on sexual orientation. However, what this bill speaks to is another place where, as a physician, I saw a great deal of discrimination happening. This is a medical diagnosis. The concept that there are persons that we like to call transgender persons who have problems coming to grips with their sexual identity, who then go to see a physician. There is a definite medical diagnosis that states that this person needs to look at their gender identity, a gender change. There are many things that they need to access. They need to access psychiatric care in terms of decision-making, in terms of diagnosis. Once that is so, there are all sorts of medical options available in terms of medication that is necessary for the change to occur, in terms of surgical interventions, etc. Many Canadian patients in this country do not have access, depending on whatever province they live in, to that kind of medical care. The Canada Health Act states very clearly that you cannot discriminate against a person if they require medically necessary care. As a diagnosis, this falls under the heading of medically necessary care and all of the pieces that come between it. So from a medical reason alone, we once again have a group of Canadians who do not have access to the care they need when they need it, regardless of ability to pay, regardless of geography, and regardless of pre-existing conditions and portability, and all the pieces of the Canada Health Act that we must need to talk about. So for medical reasons alone, even if you did not bring on the reasons that pertain to discrimination, to equality within this country, to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, to the concept that we cannot discriminate against any Canadian because of their particular group identity, this fits into all of those things. But as a physician, what I really wanted to speak to was the fact that we are denying certain members of our society, based on their group, based on their identities, access to good care that they need when they need it. I can tell you now, as a physician, I have had many patients who were struggling to decide whether they did have a gender identity problem, who were struggling to decide whether they needed to move into the next stage, which is to have whatever medical care that they need to help them to deal with this issue. These are the transgender patients that I had, and I saw that not only did they not have access to the health care that they needed, not only did they not have access to the ability to deal with a lot of the psychological as well as the physical trauma that they underwent during that period of time, but many of these people faced a totally different kind of discrimination. They faced discrimination from the heterosexual community, and in many instances they faced discrimination from within their own community, sometimes because no one knew who they were. They did not have access to simple things like washrooms, because no one would say, you can go into this washroom because you are neither fish nor fowl, and no one has decided who you were. That kind of discrimination is very devastating psychologically to a person. If we put aside the medical needs for a minute, psychologically it's devastating, because we know that when people do not know who they are, do not have the ability to have the access to the kind of counseling, the kind of ability to deal with these issues in a real way and find out who they are and where they are trapped and how they're not trapped, that this whole concept of lack of control over anything that you do affects the psychological ability of a person to just live normal lives, to be able to walk in a community, to be able to express themselves once they have actually had a diagnosis made. And for those people who had money and were able to go to a foreign country, another country, to get whatever the medical care that they needed, have come back here and they have become transgendered persons, the discrimination is extraordinary. I have been around this community as a physician and as an MP and just as a Vancouverite. And I have seen the pain, I have seen the discrimination, I have seen the isolation, I have seen the sort of inability to be welcome anywhere by anyone because of this concept of people not accepting who they are. This is an extraordinary thing to live with. I mean, when you look at levels again of suicide, of all sorts of addictions that people do to get out of the place where no one wants to accept them, we really have to deal with this issue, Mr. Speaker, because it is one of a profound importance to a group of Canadians. And the thing to remember is that if we are to believe our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, if we are to buy into our Canada Health Act, we have to take every step we have to make every Canadian equal under the law first, and secondly, by being equal under the law and the nation makes a statement that we will not accept that persons should be discriminated against in this country where we have chosen to set up a charter that speaks in Section 15 of the issue of minority rights. You cannot say one minority has more rights than others. You cannot. The minute you start saying, well, you have more rights than me, then we immediately set up this criteria of people that have different levels of people that are accepted in society. One of the things that we all know, that when people are not accepted in society, they will rise up to seek their rights. We're talking about basic human rights here. And with human rights comes access to all of the things that human beings can enjoy. The ability to live in freedom and the ability to seek your opportunity and your potential wherever you can. The ability to have access to justice, the ability to have access to education, to healthcare, to all of the things that allow us as human beings to realize whatever it is lies within us and in our potential, to live meaningful lives, to be parts of community that we accept and that we embrace. This is the fundamental human rights issue we're discussing here. And as I said, the subsets of it are medical care, access to medical care, and of course access to freedom and access to equality under the law. Those are just chunks of things that we bring in under the subset heading of the basic human right to life, to the freedom to be who you are, to choose who you wish to be, to live in a manner that's coexistent with other people, to be able to live lawfully as a lawful human being where you do not harm others and you can become a productive and contributing member of society. Those are fundamental things that we, each of us, want. And the minute we want to deny another person for all sorts of trumped-up reasons, there are always great reasons. We can always cite legal precedents, and we can always discuss the fact that we don't understand the meaning of the words and what they pertain to. But that's a red herring. The bottom line is that we actually know in medicine what this means. There is no question in medicine what this means. There's no question at all. And therefore, we have to start thinking about the people who live in our country, about what kind of government we are, what kind of parliament we are, that will allow people to live in fear, with discrimination, without access to the basic human rights that other people have. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and I will be voting for it to go to committee. Thank you.
Resuming debate.